Now to the program, and for our first session in implementation of Brazilian e-waste regulations, I want to welcome Melissa Owen, an international lawyer based in California but working with South America. So welcome, Melissa. How are you and how is California right now?
We're very good. It's midnight, but good morning. I'm just so happy to be here with you, Simone, and get to talk about this topic I've been working on for 25 years, waste regulations in Latin America. Truly a passion for me as it is for you.
Yeah, I'm delighted to have you here, and we can't wait to hear about your experiences. Of course, now we have short of time, but you have around 10 minutes to present, and then I hope that even though it's in the middle of night, if it's possible and you have the strength, that you will stay all the way through to the panel discussions. We'll see about that. But anyway.
I'll try. I'll talk fast then. I can do this. So I wanted to let me share screen. Where is here? If you'll allow me. Can you see that? I wanted to talk about. You can see it? Okay, great. I wanted to talk about Brazil's e-waste regulation. This is lessons learned. I wanted to put it in the context. The 2018 report came out talking about the harsh reality. Only a third of urban waste in Latin America still end up in open air dumps or released into the environment. The good news is 90% of the population.
Melissa.
Yes, can
we
you
are
hear?
Still not seeing your slides.
Oh, you're not seeing my slides. Okay.
Are you doing screen share?
I thought I would.
Should be in the bottom.
Here we go. Start over. Can you see now?
Now something is happening. Yes.
Great.
We're on.
Let's start from the beginning. Great. So, everything good? Hello?
What do you call it? The presentation mode.
I'm in the wrong mode. Okay.
You can just touch on your PowerPoint, the presentation mode. Otherwise, just go, right. But we see your screen.
There we go. So what I wanted to talk about is that the idea of regulating e-waste came to Latin America from Europe. It was promoted by outreach from Germany and Switzerland and different entities. And now the trend is for every country in the region to move to some level of regulation of e-waste. I've put together this slide, kind of shows an idea. It is not exhaustive, but it shows us kind of at a glance the level of adoption of e-waste regulations and what they have looked like in the region. We can see quickly, though, I want to talk about three big themes that emerge. All of them have adopted some form of extended producer responsibility. It's an easy concept to sell in countries with insufficient waste infrastructure and emerging economies. Most have looked to the EU WEEE directive for the scope of covered products. And finally, most have opted for producer management plans with take-back quotas, either government imposed or self-imposed. And there are some exceptions, my native Mexico that doesn't have one. That's a look at the region. I wanted to talk about Brazil's EPR model. I have a lot of detail here in the presentation, but I'm not going to get the time apparently to cover all of it. So I'll just kind of flash through some of it. Brazil, in its 2010 waste law and regulation, identified WEEE as a specific waste stream and called for extended producer responsibility. Manufacturers, importers, distributors, and merchants required to develop and implement reverse logistics. One of the interesting things that Brazil has done is they said, look, you are either going to have to do reverse logistics systems that are going to comply with a law or regulation, or with a sector agreement in terms of commitment. And these sector agreements or sectoral accords have been chosen as the option for waste streams that require EPR. In general terms, the government publishes a call to action that requires industries together and make a proposal for a take-back plan. Then the government negotiates with industry to develop a final version. The process for e-waste took 6 years. They worked on an agreement between 2013 and 2019. Finally, 2019, government and industry signed an agreement. It's very complex, and it covers household electronic waste. And the sectoral agreement would have bound even the non-signers, but we got a 2017 decree saying that everybody is covered, even if you're not one of the companies that signs. But even then, the government wanted to make it clear that everyone applied, so they took the sectoral agreement, added a few minor changes, and created this decree 10-240 of 2020, and the decree went into effect upon publication February 13th of 2020, and that's Brazil's WEEE regulation. Covering it quickly, covered products, as I mentioned, this covers household electronic equipment, not business equipment. It is, as you would imagine, a very broad range of covered products in Annex 1, everything from computers to air conditioners, but B2B is covered by some companies as a business offering, not by this decree. There's product exemptions, as you can expect. It's things used for corporate use, healthcare, even used in the home, batteries or lamps not part of the product or which are removable, because in Brazil, those are subject to other EPR programs. And waste from, yes.
I'm sorry. I still only see the first page of your, now something happened. Now it jumped.
Is that better somehow?
Yeah, for some
reason. Move through it like that. Okay, I'll just do this.
It's still not showing the presentation mode for some reason. I know you touched it, but maybe if you go down in the lower ledge, there is something looking like a screen or like a projected canvas to the right down there in your PowerPoint.
Let me start sharing again.
Yeah.
Where is
Sorry
share screen? Share screen.
I was listening to what you were saying, and then I started looking at the image and realized it wasn't moving.
Window. It's this one. Share. And then I don't know. It tells me I'm sharing. Can you not see
Yes, that's good. And then from current slide, you can touch on up to the left from current slide. Do you see in your PowerPoint, in the orange PowerPoint, it says from current slide?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't move through in my...
just move through and that's fine. If you go just, when you change the slide, you just...
Will that work there? Can you see that?
Perfect. It's working.
Okay. So as I was saying, it covers household, not business equipment. Long list of products covered in Annex 1, from computers to air conditioners. And then they... product exemptions, as you can imagine. Products out of scope would be professional or corporate use. Individualized electronic products, which are not affixed to the products. Waste from large generators. And it calls for a 2-stage implementation plan. Phase 1 was the creation of structures and processes. This is kind of where they started getting off the ground and creating the systems, if you will. A side note here is that the systems are going to be so complex that although the regulation allows companies to go it alone, it is thought that most won't. They're going to go through manufacturer management entities that are being created. I'll talk about in a minute. So these decrees expect government and expect these companies, all covered companies, to work together, joining these entities, pay for them, and then actually push for the approval of simplified tax schemes and work through some of the legal challenges that exist. Then create this performance tracking group that will be the one that reports to the Ministry of the Environment on the compliance with it. Phase 2, which is what we're in right now, it started January 1st of 2020. And in this, we are actually, the targets become mandatory. And it's important to highlight here that they are going to develop communication and non-formal environmental education plans. I'll get back to that. I think that's key. And they're installing collection stations and consolidation centers because that's kind of where they decided to go first. Then I'll jump down to initial targets. They have decided that they are going to be progressive. We start with 1% in the first year, moving up to 17% by year 5, and the target is by weight. Covered electronic companies have to provide appropriate treatment disposal to 100% of the products that they collect in these collection stations, including orphan or gray market. Packaging of covered products also has to be received at the collection station, but those targets are based on other existing reverse logistics agreements for general packaging. Here are the actual targets, just to give you an idea, moving from 1% to 17%. And then the big goal for these collection stations is to have one collection station per 25,000 inhabitants in each of 400 municipalities with a population of at least 80,000. And all 400 of those municipalities are set out in Annex 3 of the regulation. What does the reverse logistics system look like? In its broadest terms, the consumer is expected to take the product to the reception station or the collection point, and then the reception and temporary storage of those discarded products is handled, and they're taken from reception or consolidate stations, transported to environmentally appropriate destination or final disposal. It is also illegal to deflect these from this loop. They don't want you selling, donating, transferring any of these collected products to third parties. That's actually going to be against the law. Financing the system, it's covered companies who will be paying into the collective management entities to cover the costs, and the consumer bears all the costs of getting the discarded electronics to the collection station. This is not a door-to-door collection system. Manufacturer and importer responsibilities, I'll lay them out there just very quickly. They have to ensure environmental adequate disposal for 100% of whatever they end up collecting, provide criteria so that they can figure out the mass balance, make available, and participate in these communication and formal management plans. Importer specific duties, it's interesting, they're going to require you, if you go to import a product as an importer, that you tell the government on your importer declaration form who is in charge of that management system and which one you belong to. Distributors are involved as well. Yes.
I'm sorry to say, but now we've passed 11 minutes.
Got it.
But this is so interesting, and I'm writing down my own questions here as we go along. Do you know if you will be with us within an hour when all the rest have presented and we're having the panel discussion?
I don't know, actually.
No, okay. So
it's so late. It's been a pleasure. Sorry the time got cut so short.
No, I'm so sorry. But yeah, we do have your handout, which is in the handouts of this session, and we're putting it also in session number 2 so that people can take part of this and learn. And of course now, if they poke you already now and send you a message with their contacts, you can establish contact with Melissa and get to know more about the South American e-waste regulations. I also want to know, because you mentioned, did I hear it correctly? There will be no resale or reuse of the products in that take-back scheme? They didn't want that?
No, what they don't want is things getting out of the take-back scheme. They are to be kept in the loop set up by the management entity. You cannot collect them at the collection station and then divert them to a third party. It has to follow the loop that was set out in the regulation.
All right. And then I was wondering, I know there are some new guidelines now in Brazil on transportation of e-waste. Would you tell us briefly of that?
Briefly, what happened is now e-waste is not considered hazardous during transportation from a collection point to a recycling center until it's dismantled, so that it facilitates transport without being regulated as a hazardous waste.
That's even great, in my opinion. So that would make it much easier.
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what about your insights on transboundary movement in South America? How is that working now? And
That's
what do you see?
Complicated. Yeah, it's complicated. It's very complicated because countries will allow it, like Brazil itself will allow transport in the country, but when you go to export it out of Brazil, they consider it hazardous. So it makes it very complicated to have an international system.
Thank you. That's great. I need to see if anyone else has written. No, we don't have any questions at the moment. If we do get them during today or
them
the
on.
days.
Happy to send them on. Yes.
Wonderful. And then we can add them to all the compiled notes from the whole conference later on also. So that will
Great.
be great.
Great.
Well,
The
thank you
three,
so
just
much.
one
Yeah.
more minute. The three big takeaways if you could learn from Brazil is consensus versus command. Call industry together, have them make a proposal, send it to government, and government work with them on it instead of government coming up in the dark with a plan. Industry knows its business better than we do. Second, there are existing laws. So when you build a brand new e-waste law, make sure that it fits in with the tax, transport, waste standards. And third is, I think the idea of dividing household and business waste makes sense, but I think Brazil is wrong. Small businesses still need to be considered as household. They are not sophisticated and wealthy enough to manage their e-waste streams outside of this regulation. So I wish Brazil had included small businesses as part of this. Those are the three big. If anybody has anything beyond that, happy to take. My email is in the presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you. We have one question actually now in the Q&A from Piotr Bachak. You said that once collected items, they cannot be transferred to a third party. This is just to now elaborate on that. Does it mean that the repair organizations cannot access them at all in the end in order to repair and resell after this take-back loop is done?
They would have to partner with, if you'll go into there are two main entities, and Green Electron is one of them. You'll see slides for them. So the management entity takes control of and would manage that. So you would have to be partnered with them to be part of the solution that they offer to their members.
Okay, but at least the reuse and resell is not a non-option. It's just that you need to be in the system.
It would have to be part of the accepted plan. Exactly.
Then we have it much more clearer. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, I wish you a wonderful night.
I'll try to hang in there. We'll see.
Yeah, would you please? And now to the technicalities of this, because we're still in the introduction session number 1, but we need to move ourselves to session number 2, which, if you just bear with me, we will do that automatically, and we should all magically appear in session number 2. So let's try this now.